Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Present, Jen, at Glacier Park. Liz called and told me she was on her way and asked me to meet her at the landing zone. I walked out of the trees, where I had been hiding and spying on Ben and Stacy. I trusted Ben, but I sure didn't trust that bitch. And Ben surprised the hell out of me when he ran over to me, gave me a huge hug and a kiss that, well, it made me weak in the knees and disturbed a certain sensitive part of my anatomy. I couldn't believe he gave me such an incredible kiss because I still hadn't brushed my teeth. Then Ben shocks me even more when he picks me up, twirls me around, and loudly announces, "I've missed the hell out of you." He sets me down. I stumble from the kiss and the twirling around, and Ben grabs me before I fall. I smile at him and ask, "Ben, what has gotten into you?" Ben smacks my rear, which I don't really care for because it hurts, and announces, "Love. Jennifer Donaldson, I love you." I'm not really sure how much of this is the truth and how much of this is a show for the bitch Stacy, but I'm sure as hell not going to complain if Ben is letting the bitch know that she's lost. I smack Ben's rear as hard as I can. Unfortunately, his rear is like steel, and it hurts the hell out of my hand. And I suggest, "Ben, save it for our honeymoon." Ben looks like he thinks for a moment and says, "Yeah, I need to talk with Liz to make sure she packed your bag for the honeymoon." My curiosity is piqued, so I ask, "What exactly does she need to pack for the honeymoon?" Ben laughs and answers, "I hope she brought your best cold weather gear." Shoot, that was not the direction I hoped for our honeymoon. Why? Oh, why did I let Ben choose the place for the honeymoon? Present, Stacy, at Glacier Park. When Jennifer Donaldson came out of the woods, Ben made a spectacle of himself with her to prove to me that he really loved her. Hell, it was so bad I was actually embarrassed for Ben. It makes me even more sure that his marriage to the bitch isn't going to last, and I can be there too. Well, pick up the pieces. I smile at the two of them and tell a lie that I am sure will condemn me to hell. Wow, Ben and Jennifer, I never knew how much the two of you loved each other until this moment. Jennifer, I hope there are no hard feelings between us. I am Ben's friend and would love to be your friend. Jennifer separates herself from Ben's overt and excessive physical display of affection, walks over, shakes my hand, and says, "Stacy, I do hope that you and Ben can remain friends." Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. She is snubbing me and relegating me to just be Ben's friend. That's okay. I can always use one of Bill's plans to eliminate her later if I need to. I decide I need to change the subject, so I ask Ben, "How is Patches?" Ben blushes and answers, "Sorry, Stacy, Jens interrupted me. I will take a look at her immediately." Ben leaves to check Patches, so I glare at Jennifer and give her an evil smile. Present, Jen, at Glacier Park. I can tell that even with Ben's crazy display of love for me, this isn't even close to being over with Stacy. The bitch must somehow see something that I don't, because when Ben leaves to check Patches, she gives me this diabolical look and smile that chills me to the bone. After that, she leaves me to check on Patches, and I'm sure mostly to be with Ben. I want to rip the bitch's arms off as she touches my Ben on the shoulder. I even consider checking on Patches too, just to continue to perturb Stacy. But then I hear the sound of several helicopters, look up, and it appears the cavalry has arrived. I recognize Liz in the window of the first chopper, wave at her. She waves back, and the chopper lands. Present, Liz, at Glacier Park. I can tell, even from this distance, that something isn't quite right with Jens. Perhaps it's the smile on her face, or perhaps something else of which I'm not really aware. Hell, perhaps it's women's intuition, or perhaps it's nothing at all, and I'm imagining things. The chopper lands. I wait for the rotors to stop. Then I exit the chopper with a bunch of people. One of the first individuals out is the wedding dress designer, and he certainly swings the other way. He sashays up to Jennifer, takes one look at her, and demands, "I cannot work with her until she has taken a shower, had her hair done, and been given a manicure and pedicure. I do not know how you people expect me to function in these primitive conditions." I walk up to him and remind in a whisper, "You might want to tone it down some, honey, as this is already being televised." I direct his attention to Samantha and the cameraman I sent with her. He whispers to me, "Thank you, Lizzie, my love. I need to correct my faux pas." He walks toward Jennifer sporting a new attitude and says, "How is my blushing bride? Let's get you pampered so I can fit and tailor your dress." He begins to lead Jens away. How he knows where the hell to go, I have no idea. I walk up beside Jens and ask, "Okay, Jens, what's wrong?" Jens looks at me and responds, "It's that obvious?" I hope Ben can't tell. I smile at her and answer, "Don't worry, it was only obvious to me. So tell me what's wrong." Jens looks at me, bites her lower lip. I know it's bad because this is a sure sign of a major problem, and confesses, "Liz, I sure as heck don't like that Ben invited Stacy, Miranda, and some other woman named Margarita to our wedding. I knew about Stacy, but I didn't know about the others." I take a moment to analyze the situation, then I purposefully laugh and answer, Jens, I am shocked that you don't understand. Jens demands, understand what? That Ben is hedging his bets with me? I want to physically slap the shit out of Jens, but she is the bride, so I only verbally chide. Jens, you might not know or understand this, but Ben is showing anyone and everyone, especially those 3 women you mentioned, that he is off the market. Jens asks, are you sure? I laugh and answer, of course I am sure. Ben is a very logical man, isn't he? Jens replies, yeah, sometimes entirely too logical. I continue, so tell me why he invited them? It sure as hell wasn't to aggravate you or to put you on the defensive. The only logical explanation is he wanted to permanently close the door on them. Hell, Jens, you should feel lucky that he's doing this. I wish Bernie would do this for our wedding. Jens looks at me with obvious hope in her eyes and wonders, Liz, are you sure about this? I laugh at Jens and ask, what do you want me to do? Cross my heart or pinky swear? I'm shocked when Jens answers, how about both? So I cross my heart and I pinky swear with Jens. She appears to feel better and I advise, Jens, it's normal for the bride to be nervous on her wedding day. We get to the campsite as Jens confesses. Present, Jen, at Glacier Park. We arrive at the campsite. The obviously gay dressmaker begins to command the others that have come, and I confess to Liz, Liz, I still really can't believe this is happening. That Ben and I are finally getting married. Liz reaches out her hand and pinches the heck out of my arm. I snatch it away from her and complain, what the heck was that for? Liz laughs and says, Jens, you need to realize this isn't a dream. If you go through with the ceremony, you and Ben will be married. Is that what you really want? I can't believe Liz asked me that. I do control my temper some, but explode a little, and even swear. Liz, how in the hell can you ask me that? I have been waiting to marry Ben my whole life, and you know it. Liz laughs loudly and answers, then Jens, enjoy this day because it's your and Ben's special day. And stop the hell trying to analyze everything. I decide Liz is right. This is our day, and I need to enjoy it. The dressmaker commands, okay, my blushing bride, the first thing for you is a good shower. He rushes me over to the portable shower which someone has set up, forces me inside, and says, don't worry about the terrible clothes you are wearing, just toss them out of the shower, and we will burn them. I complain, hey, those are some of my favorite clothes, please don't burn them. He insults me by saying, oh well, there's no accounting for taste. I guess you're more butch than most of the women I work with. But we are here to make your day special, so we will save your terrible clothes. I turn on the shower, jump because it's frickin' cold, and complain, the shower is cold. The dressmaker says, yes, that's the way I wanted it. We need to keep you cold so you don't start sweating and ruin your dress. I continue to complain, well, if I look like a smuff bride, it will be your fault. I begin to wash up and he demands, I forgot to tell you, do not wash your hair, just wet it down as we have a stylist here to wash, cut, and set your hair for you. I hate this abuse, so I yell, Liz, help me. They want to cut my hair. Liz laughs and says, Jens, I've been here listening the whole time. Enrique is one of the best and has agreed to handle your look for the wedding. If he says your hair needs to be cut, then it needs to be cut. Now stop being a baby about this. I'm finished with my cold shower and ask, okay, what the heck am I supposed to wear? A robe appears over the top of the shower and Enrique orders, wear this for now. I query, what about underwear? I should have known better because Enrique says, we match those to the dress, so until then you can go au natural. I step out of the shower and I'm immediately whisked away to the beauty therapists, and the 3 of them start on my hair and my hands and feet. I order, I don't want my hair too short. Enrique countermands my order. He shows the hairdresser a picture, which I don't get to see, and orders, this is how I want you to style her hair, and her nails need to be this color. Liz is watching. I call her over and complain, Liz, I thought this is my special day. Liz laughs and answers, it is Jens. They are here to make your special day even more special. Heck, if I would have known this was going to be such a pain in the rear, I would have eloped. Present, Ben, at Glacier Park. The choppers keep coming. They're hauling in an incredible assortment of people and equipment. Hell, there are times some of the choppers have to wait for the others to leave the landing area before they can land. I didn't have any idea having a wedding was such a big deal. Jack walks up and teases me. Shit, Ben, you look like you have your hands full. I nod my head and answer, that's putting it mildly. I never guessed this was going to be such a huge production. Jack laughs and explains what's wrong with my thinking. Hell, Ben, you didn't realize how big of a deal this is? You marrying Jennifer is as close to a royal wedding as America will ever have. Don't you need to start getting ready for the wedding? I reply, yeah, I sure do, but someone has to handle all the traffic. Jack volunteers, Ben, I can handle this. Why don't you take off, get your hair cut, take a shower, and... That reminds me, what are you wearing today? I smile at Jack and answer, where the hell can I get my hair cut, and I have my dress blues with me. Jack answers, Jennifer has a hairdresser here, and I bet they can cut your hair. You also might want to see if they can press your dress blues. By the way, how do they fit you since you've lost weight? I think for a moment and answer, I haven't tried them on in a while. Jack scolds. Hell, Ben, you'd better get Jennifer's gay dressmaker to fit your dress blues. I shake Jack's hand and remind him, you do know you're my best man. What are you wearing? He smiles at me and answers, Masha is bringing my dress blues that fit me to AT. I will shower right before I change. Now get the hell out of here and get ready for your wedding. I take off to prepare for my wedding. Present, Jens, at Glacier Park. Talk about the royal frickin' treatment. I am in a chaise lounge while one woman works on my hair, another woman works on my hands, and a third woman works on my feet. The woman working on my hair begins to complain. I don't know what sort of shitty shampoo you use on your hair, but it's caused a lot of damage. I inform her, I normally use baby shampoo. She clucks, no wonder. I hate to tell you this, but I need to give you a hot oil treatment if we have any hope of salvaging this mess you call hair. I begin to complain when the woman working on my feet does something that hurts. I pull my foot away and yell, what the hell are you doing to my feet? She grabs my foot and replies, your feet have many calluses that we need to remove if they are going to be presentable for the wedding. This is going to hurt a little. Hurt a little my rear. It hurts like a son of a gun. It feels like she is ripping the bottom of my foot off. Liz comes up and says, Jennifer, look who's coming. Ben walks up, takes one look at me, begins to laugh, and says, honey, you look beautiful. Enrique walks up, sees Ben, and says, is this the groom? No, he will never do. Then he begins to yell, Liz, you never told me what the groom looked like. Ben complains, what the hell is wrong with me? Enrique replies, and I don't think he's teasing. Oh, almost everything. He then commands, Liz, get him into the shower, and then a robe, and girls hurry up with the bride, because as much a disaster as she is, the groom is even worse. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Liz smiles at me and takes Ben to the shower. The girls working on me are even rougher than before. Present, Ben, at Glacier Park. What the holy hell did I get us into? Liz takes me over to the shower, which I do need, however it's cold as hell. I begin to complain and Enrique states, you need a cold shower so you do not sweat in your... He stops mid-sentence and changes direction. Groom, what are you wearing today at your wedding? My teeth are chattering as I reply, my marine dress blues, and this is not negotiable. I hear him pacing and talking to himself until he finally asks, are those the sexy dark blue marine uniforms with the red strip up the pants? I almost puke from the way he said it, but I hold it in and reply, that's correct. Because it's a wedding, I will also wear all my medals and my sword. Again he paces while talking to himself and finally answers, as I finish my shower, I really like this and can work with this. Please let me see your uniform. I first ask, what the hell am I supposed to wear now that I am finished with my shower? A robe, which is much too short, appears over the edge of the shower. I complain, don't you have a longer robe, and what about some underwear? Enrique responds, that is the only robe we have, but if you do not like it you can do without. Do not worry about underwear, since it will be coordinated with your bride's underwear. Now where is your military uniform? I put on the robe. It's so short it's damn near as bad as wearing a hospital gown. And tell Liz, my dress blues are in a garment bag in my tent. But they might not fit me because I've lost some weight. Enrique says, do not worry if they do not fit. I will make them fit you like a glove. Come because we need to get your hair cut and a manicure and pedicure. I about explode. What the hell? Enrique leads me to a chair beside Jens and orders, this is the haircut I want for him. I ask, don't I get a say in this? Jens laughs and answers, no you don't, and welcome to my world. They begin to work on me, and I hate it. Present, Glenn and Hammer, at Glacier Park International Airport. We arrive at Glacier Park International Airport, and it's immediately clear that something unusual is happening. Several CIFs C-130s are present, with helicopters actively transporting people, presumably to the campsite. As we take in the scene, I notice a couple of familiar faces heading our way. Tom approaches with his striking companion, Inga, and greets us. General, Hammer, it's good to see you both made it. Inga will arrange for your transport to the campsite via one of the helicopters. Inga adds warmly, welcome, General. You must be excited that this day has finally arrived. I smile and respond, yes, my Jennifer has wanted to marry Ben ever since she was a little girl. I was pleased to hear that she finally managed to win him over. Tom corrects me with an amused expression, General, from what we understand, Jennifer didn't exactly catch Ben. It was more like Ben let Jennifer catch him. By the way, we were sorry to hear that you never found Evelyn. I'm sure Jennifer would have liked her to be here today. I offer a blunt response. If Evelyn were here, she'd probably try to ruin Jennifer's wedding. She never thought Ben was good enough for Jennifer. Inga gestures toward a waiting helicopter and says, General, that's your transport. Have a great flight, and there are shower facilities at the campsite. As we board the chopper, I chuckle, slap my good friend Hammer on the knee, and remark, Looks like we've just been told we stink. Hammer laughs and replies, that might apply to you, not me. Present, Tom and Inga, at Glacier Park International Airport. Inga turns to me and sighs in relief. I'm glad the general made it. But I was shocked by what he said about his wife. Do you have any more details? I begin to recount the story but stop abruptly when I notice a new group exiting one of the C-130s. Pointing rudely, I exclaim, please tell me my eyes are deceiving me. Inga follows my gaze, her mouth dropping open as she stammers, I can't believe what I'm seeing. They don't look dressed for a wedding. Who are they? A gust of wind lifts one of the black veils, revealing a familiar face. Recognizing them, I inform Inga, that's Miranda and Irina Sedankina, along with Alexei Sedankin. I have no idea who the third woman is. Miranda had a major crush on Ben and wanted to marry him. Now, they work as Liz Morgan's bodyguards, but in the past, they were known as the Angels of Death, elite assassins. I can only assume their outfits are some kind of protest. Inga huffs indignantly. Anyone who wears black funeral dresses to a wedding deserves to be called out. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. I quickly grab her arm and warn, unless you have a death wish, I strongly suggest you leave them alone. Inga demands, why the hell should I? I remind her, didn't you listen to me? They are assassins. Besides, if no one says anything about their clothes, we will win. I continue with an order. I order you to stay here. I will handle this. I walk up to the group. Present, Mira, Ira, Safia, and Alexei, at Glacier International Airport. Tom walks toward us, and I am disappointed that he shows no reaction toward our accoutrements. He smiles and greets us, welcome Sedankinas, and, I'm sorry I don't know who you are. He refers to the child-encumbered Safia. Safia smiles, shakes his hand and answers, I am Mira and Ira's adopted sister Safia. Alexei shocks us by furthering the introduction with both a verbal and visual explanation. She is carrying my child and will soon be my wife. This is new news for everyone, especially since Safia reacts with much mirth. She accosts Alexei vociferously for his forward behavior. Ira watches and complains. If you continue with that obscene public display of affection, then you need to acquire a hotel domicile. Tom seems impervious to the ungainly public display of affection and says, the four of you will be on the next outgoing chopper. There are outhouse facilities at the campground, but should you require more civilized facilities, I would suggest you use them in the airport terminal. I look at Ira and Ira informs me, thank you, Tom. The outhouse facilities will be sufficient. Tom translocates toward a new woman who we oculate is experiencing an interesting confrontation. Alexei leans over and inquires, my sisters, who is that Russian prostitute? I glare at Alexei and pontificate, indubitably in addition to my Ben's dalliances, similar in nature to his temporary enthrallment with Jennifer Donaldson. Present, Inga and Tom, at Glacier Park International Airport. I am somewhat thankful that Tom took care of the Sedankinas since I know I would have lectured them for at least an hour. A private jet arrives, and a woman carrying a small doggy cage staggers down the air stairs, and I can't believe it. She is dressed more inappropriately than the Sedankinas. She has flaming hot pink hair, a skin-tight miniskirt, black fishnet stockings, and high heels. She staggers, obviously very drunk, in my direction and demands with a very obvious Russian accent, where's the Benny Blaine wedding? I decide to put her in her place and answer, I thought prostitutes were reserved for the bachelor party, not the wedding. She glares at me and states, I'm not a prostitute, bitch. I'm Margarita and Ben invited me and Motita to his wedding. She shakes the small cage, the dog growls. Then she continues, so shut up and get me to the campsite. I laugh in her face and hurl my insult. Typical Russian woman. You are all prostitutes if you are drunk enough or if you are given enough money. She laughs and retorts, at least we don't give it away to every fisherman like Scandinavian bitches. I drop back into a martial arts stance and prepare to kick her, but when Tom walks up, Inga is certainly having issues with some of the guests. I should probably clarify that statement. Any of the guests who she feels are not dressed appropriately. I was able to keep the Sedankinas from killing her, but now I can tell from her body language she's going to get in a fight with some other woman who looks like a cheap hooker. I walk between them, which stops the confrontation, and ask, what's going on here? The woman staggers, she's obviously drunk, and says, this bitch called me a prostitute. Inga counters, this Russian 304 insulted me. I am saved when another C-130 lands. I give Inga my best smile and politely ask, Inga, I will handle this. Will you please take care of the new C-130? I misjudged the level of the problem between Inga and this woman when she further insults. Only if you promise not to sleep with this Russian 304. Inga doesn't wait for an answer and walks away. The woman drops the small cage with the dog inside, and the dog howls. She lunges at Inga, but I grab her. She struggles wildly and snaps. Get your hands off me. Holding her is like trying to wrestle a wild animal. She suddenly stops struggling and smirks. How about we settle this right here? She taunts. I push her away in disgust and say firmly, you're on the next chopper out of here. Make sure you're on it. She laughs and answers, what is it with all the prudish American males I have encountered? Benny Blaine would not take me, and now you do not want me. Oh well, you will never know what you missed. As she walks toward the chopper, I think, yeah, I probably missed getting an STD. Present, Stacy, preparing for the wedding. Well, the wolf or wolves herded Wojciech back to the campsite, but he was one tired bear. His tongue was hanging out, and he smelled worse than ever. I pet him, he softly yowls, and I say, yeah, I know it should have been me, but you never know what will happen in the future. I had tasked the veterinarian with cleaning up Bo and Patches, but I knew it fell on me to clean up Wojciech. I guide him by his ear, it was the best way to lead him, to the pump where there are buckets handy. I fill a bucket with water, add a bunch of soap, and dump it on Wojciech. Of course he yowled and tries to escape, but I still had hold of his ear. I scrubbed the hell out of him and was shocked at the amount of crap that came out of his fur. No wonder he smells so bad. I pump another bucket, rinse him, and keep washing him until the water coming off when rinsing him is clean. Now, how to keep him clean while I get ready. I look around, finally see someone that's not busy and offer, I will give you $100 if you stand here and hold the bear's ear until he dries. He agrees, and I begin to strip off my clothes. I don't really care if anyone sees me. In fact, I wish that Ben could see me, so he would know what he's missing, while his eyes practically bug out of his head. I pump some water into clean buckets and wash myself. I enjoy the sun on my skin drying me, and finally I am dry. I walk over to the tree on which I had hung my dress, open up the bag, slip into my bra and panties, and then into my beautiful dress. Yes, this dress should certainly make the statement I wanted to make. Present, Samantha, videoing the wedding preparations. I can't believe it. The time is finally here for the wedding. My cameramen are in perfect positions. Jennifer is at the back of the campground waiting with Glenn in his kilt. Ben is waiting up front with the craziest group of groomsmen I have ever seen. Jack is his best man, but then there's a wolf, a horse, Wojciech the bear, and a little dog. Jennifer's side is a little strange too. Liz is the maid of honor, but beside her is Jennifer's dog Sharik. I guess you could say this wedding had gone to the dogs, or at least the animals. The only thing that would make it better was if someone played the wedding march. It was almost like Ben heard my request. Jack hands him a guitar, and Ben begins to play the wedding march. I didn't know Ben could play the guitar, let alone play it so well. Jennifer looks at Glenn, and they begin to walk up the hastily formed aisles. I can't believe what happens next. Flashback, Ben, a new mission. The first layover was complete, and we were back on the plane. We were also, for the most part, back in the good graces of most of our fellow Marines. I leaned over toward Jack and complained, you sure came up with some crazy stories about Russia. Hell, I had a terrible time keeping up with all your bullshit. Jack gave me a satisfied smirk and self-righteously answered, I didn't tell them anything they didn't want to hear. Jack was correct. Even though he stretched the truth to almost the breaking point, it was clearly what the other Marines wanted to hear. I figured I would lighten the mood on the plane, so I loudly asked, what do you call an Iraqi with a camel and a goat? Someone toward the front of the plane moaned and complained, not that old joke. You call them bisexual. There was some laughter, so I continued with the jokes. Why aren't there any Walmarts in Iraq? One of the Marines yelled, because there are targets on every corner. More laughter that time, so I was motivated to continue. What's the difference between an Iraqi woman and a catfish? This time there was no answer, so I yelled, one has whiskers and smells like a fish, and the other is a fish. There was a huge amount of laughter this time, so loud that it created problems. Flashback, Captain M, a new mission. The Marines in the back of the plane started laughing like crazy, which woke up the bony bitch. Following her primal instinct, she ordered, Captain, get your butt back there and see what the hell the Marines are laughing about. I slowly exited my seat, but the bony bitch screeched, Captain, move your lazy butt. The bony bitch could order me around, but she sure as hell couldn't tell me how damn fast to move. I ambled toward the back of the plane, and a familiar voice quizzed, what do you call an evil Iraqi? One of the other Marines answered, Muha, ha, ha, med. The Marines burst into uncontrolled laughter, and I chided, just what the hell is so damn funny about that joke? A sure way to piss off the Iraqis is to insult Muhammad. Sergeant Blaine, that's enough of the jokes. The Marines began to complain, so I nipped it in the bud. Well, if you think that joke is so damn funny, then all of you can drop in the aisle and give me 100. There was groaning as they complied with my order. Flashback, Jack and Ben, a new mission. I was in the aisle doing push-ups with the rest of the Marines and complained to Ben, shit Ben, don't do anything the rest of the flight, and we just I didn't finish because the plane hit an air pocket. We dropped like a rock, and the next thing I knew I was falling from the ceiling to the floor. I made sure I landed fine and was feeling okay until some big Marine crashed down on top of me. The Captain M didn't like my jokes, so he had all of us doing push-ups in the aisle, which didn't really work because there were too many of us to all fit in the aisle at the same time. The pilots hit an air pocket, and the plane dropped like a rock. I was able to wriggle around and land on my feet while Jack was doing okay until some big gorilla fell on top of him. I jumped through our row, helped the gorilla Marine off Jack, checked him, and found he was unconscious. I yelled, "Corpseman! We need a corpseman back here immediately." My chant was taken up by others on the flight, and soon all you could hear were moans from the injured and calls for a corpseman. Flashback, Captain M, a new mission. Son of a bitch. What a terrible time for this to happen. I had the Marines doing push-ups in the aisle when all hell broke loose. The next thing I know, the bony bitch is beside me screeching, "Captain, what the hell did you do to the man?" I glared at her and countered, "I was just following your orders, sir." She glared right back at me and countered my counter with, "I sure as hell didn't order you to have our men get out of their seats." She barked like the bitch she was. "Everyone that is able, get back in your seats immediately and fasten your seatbelts. Those that can't move under their own volition, wait until a Navy corpsman evaluates you before you try to move back to your seat." She spits at me, "Captain, if our mission in Iraq is compromised by this boneheaded act of yours, I will make sure that you hang for it. Now accompany me while we ascertain the extent of the damage you created." We made our way toward the back of the plane, through the many Marines still in the aisle who were waiting for a corpsman. We were almost to the rear of the plane when I saw Sergeant Blaine kneeling beside a prostrate Sergeant Reynolds. The bony bitch looked at them, then looked at me, moved closer, and whispered, "Captain, the old man has some special plans for the two of them, so you had better pray to God that Sergeant Reynolds is okay." Then she shrieked, "Corpsman! We need a corpsman here immediately." A corpsman arrived. Sergeant Reynolds woke up and asked, "Where's the bus that hit me?" The corpsman ordered, "Stay still and tell me where it hurts." Sergeant Reynolds replied, "My lower back feels like hell." The corpsman probed his back. Sergeant Reynolds jumped. The corpsman looked up at us and stated, "Sirs, I think it's probably a back strain, but it could also be disc injuries. We will know better when we get an MRI at the hospital." Sergeant Blaine and the corpsman assisted Sergeant Reynolds, who was in obvious pain, into his seat. Sergeant Blaine fastened the belt after Sergeant Reynolds was seated, then maneuvered through the row of seats, got in my face and threatened, "Captain M, if Jack is..." He never got to finish, unfortunately, or I would have had his butt, because the bony bitch interrupted, "Sergeant Blaine, 10 hot." He snapped to attention and she continued, "Sergeant, don't say or do something stupid. I will make sure the captain pays for his idiocy. Now get back in your seat as I ordered." He glared at me, sat down and fastened his seatbelt. Flashback, Jack and Ben, a new mission. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it right now because there was nothing that could be done about it, but my lower back was seriously screwed up. Ben and the Navy corpsman helped me back into my seat and strapped me in, but the pain and spasms were so bad in my back I couldn't sit still. The corpsman gave me some pills, but they weren't doing shit. Colonel Maggie and a-hole Captain M left. Ben reached into one of his pockets, produced a flask, handed it to me, and said, "Drink this, it should help." I smiled at Ben and said, "I thought alcohol was verboten on this flight." He softly chuckled, "It's only forbidden if you get caught. Now drink up and enjoy." I unscrewed the cap on the flask and took a big slug. I expected Ben's normal Knob Creek, but this was a surprise. It was smooth as hell going down, much smoother than Knob Creek. "Shit, this might be the best bourbon I ever tasted." I asked, "What the hell is this?" Ben laughed softly and answered, "It's Pappy Van Winkle's Family Reserve. There's hardly any better bourbon in the world." I took another slug and stated, "Shit, it's a shame to drink such a fine bourbon in such a cavalier manner." Ben again chuckled and answered, "Don't worry, I have a few more bottles stashed in my rifle case for special occasions." I held the flask toward Ben and asked, "Do you want to snort?" Ben shook his head. "No, just take your time and enjoy. But be careful, it will kick your butt." I took Ben's recommendation and enjoyed it. By the time we landed in Baghdad, I wasn't feeling any pain. Flashback, Masha, at the market. After being treated rudely and insulted by the salesgirl and the fat pig customer behind me in line, I left all my groceries on the belt and started to leave the market. I was almost to the door when a rather obese man came up to me and said, "Excuse me, ma'am. I am the manager of the store and just witnessed the unfortunate encounter you had with our salesgirl and customer. We value all our customers equally, and I would like to find some way to rectify the situation if possible." I was not certain I believed this man, so I questioned, "Why should you care about my business since I am only one person? A large store such as this must have many customers." He smiled at me and explained, "Yes, you are only one customer. However, if we fail to take care of your needs, you will tell your friends, and they will tell their friends, and soon we would be out of business. We rely on word-of-mouth advertising. So please tell me how I can rectify the situation that forced you to leave." I was certainly not going to tell him that I had no friends in America, so after I thought for a moment, I said, if the salesgirl was to give me an apology that would rectify the situation. He smiled and said, "I will do one more thing even better than that." He escorted me back to the salesgirl. She looked terrified, and he ordered, "I observed your shameful interaction with this woman, and you owe her an apology." The fat pig customer loudly complained, "She can do that after she finishes checking me out." The market manager glared at the customer and demanded, "What about the extra merchandise you put in your purse and under your clothes? When were you planning on paying for them?" The fat pig customer also looked scared but replied, "I don't know what the hell you are talking about." The market manager made a motion with his hands. A uniformed policeman walked up and said, "Ma'am, I have reviewed the store's surveillance video. It is obvious that you have shoplifted many items from this store. Come with me quietly, and we won't add resisting arrest to your charges." The police officer escorted the fat pig woman away. The young salesgirl looked at me and apologized. "I'm sorry, ma'am, for giving you such terrible service. I promise I will never do that to anyone again." The market manager threatened, "If you do, you will lose your job. Now bag up this lady's groceries so she can leave." I questioned, "How much do I owe you for these groceries?" The market manager said, "Because our service was so poor today, your salesgirl will be paying for them out of her salary. Please tell all your friends how you were treated here today." My groceries were in the bag. I smiled and said, "Thank you, sir, and I will make sure to inform all of my friends about my excellent treatment here today." The manager laughed. I looked at the salesgirl and said, "I am sorry that you got in trouble, and I do not want you to pay for my groceries." I reached my wallet inside my purse, took out a $20 bill, handed it to her, and continued, "I hope this will cover the cost of my groceries, which will be deducted from your salary." The salesgirl began to cry and said, "Thank you, ma'am, for being so nice. I really don't deserve it after the way I treated you. I have a young child to take care of, so we barely survive on my salary." As I walked home, I marveled at what happened. Of course, I never would have been treated this poorly in Russia, but if I had been treated in such a manner, they would not have corrected it in such an incredible manner. Then I remembered the young salesgirl. I felt sad for her predicament and began to wonder if there was some way in which I could assist her. Flashback, Jennifer, at the doctor's. Daddy and I had avoided eating Mother's cooking, and the gastric problems we had experienced promptly disappeared. Now we were back at the doctor's office for the results of the tests. The doctor was looking over the results and started, "This is just crazy." Daddy looked at me, looked back at the doctor, and asked, "What is crazy?" The doctor answered Daddy's question with a question, "Are you sure you didn't forget to tell me about some of the medications you were taking?" Daddy replied, "Hell no. Neither my daughter nor I are taking any medications." "Why do you ask?" The doctor shook his head and answered, "Well, there are traces of laxative, nifurocyanide, and adipolgite in both yours and your daughter's stool samples." Daddy stated, "I know what laxative is, but what the hell are nifurocyanide and adipolgite?" The doctor said, "The nifurocyanide is an intestinal antiseptic and adipolgite is a magnesium aluminum silicate, which has absorbent intestinal action." Daddy shook his head and said, "Can you please explain this in English?" The doctor smiled and said, "It looks to me that someone was adulterating your food to give you either diarrhea or constipation." Daddy looked at him and stated the obvious. "Well, isn't that why we originally came here? To determine the cause of our problems? So what can we do to keep this from happening?" He said, "Stop eating wherever you were eating when you were getting sick." We walked out of the doctor's office. Daddy looked at me and said, "Jennifer, I hate to say it, but Evelyn has deliberately done this to us." I asked, "I agree, Daddy. So now what are we going to do?" Flashback, Alexei, at the laboratory. I, of course, informed the psychologist of the confrontation last night with my family. He asked my parents many questions, then he said something which shocked me. He looked at my parents and ordered, "I agree that Alexei is required to come back and live at the laboratory. However, I also think that Chow Mein should live with him in the same room." Mother practically exploded. "What the hell are you talking about, you fat old fart? There is no way my baby is going to live here." The psychologist looked at my father and replied, "You were not deceitful when you told me about her mental lapses." He stroked his beard for a few moments and then added, "And Alexei, we need to commit your mother to this facility for a serious psychological evaluation." Mother jumped up from her seat and loudly complained, "There's no way in hell I am being committed." Unbeknownst to Mother, the psychologist had a button under his desk which summoned the orderlies. I discovered it one time when he left me alone in his office. When Mother became belligerent, the psychologist must have pressed the button because two orderlies arrived in the room and he ordered, Take her away and put her in restraints until I can complete a total psychological evaluation. Mother attempted to fight them. However, they were much larger and stronger than she was. They took her out of the room, and the psychologist apologized. Alexei, I am sorry you had to witness this. However, your mother's instability could be the primary cause of your illness. I feigned an innocent smile and questioned, what illness, sir? Father asked, Alexei, do you not remember sticking your head out the window like a dog last night? I replied in feigned shock, Father, I did no such thing. Father smiled at me and said, Alexei, I will bring your and Chow Main's things today and help you to arrange your room. I am truly sorry about this. I smiled at Father and asked, will you still take me out for dinner or a movie twice a week? He laughed and provided an answer which made me feel badly. Alexei, with your mother being gone, you are my only remaining family. Flashback, Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. I awoke and wished I would have expired. Kostia had arranged one of his sexual tortures for us, and I was being violated in more ways than I knew was possible. I turned my head and oculated that my poor sister Ira received even harsher treatment. I closed my eyes and fervently craved death's embrace. Flashback, Todd, the next morning. I woke up and realized last night did happen since my sexy translator was nude and in my bed beside me. I guess we had too much wine combined with too many shots because the next thing we knew we're back at my place having sex. The only problem was immediately obvious. It wasn't like the sex I had with Lou or Lynn. Sex with her was, well, boring. My movements must have awakened her as she opened her eyes, smiled at me, and said, where in the world did you learn how to make love like that? I had more orgasms last night than I have ever had in my life. I thought back to Lou and realized there was no way to explain what I did last night because it was something Lou taught me. I blushed, jumped out of bed, ran into the bathroom, and started the shower. Perhaps if I took long enough in the shower, she would be gone when I was done. I came out of the shower and realized that my assumptions were incorrect. Present, Samantha, videoing the wedding. Jens begins to walk up the hastily formed aisle. Glenn is holding her arm, and I begin my narration. Yes, America. The wedding we have been waiting for is finally happening. Jennifer Donaldson is finally marrying Benny Blaine in, of all places, a campsite at an undisclosed location. I did not want to reveal the location because I knew we would have too many people who would crash the wedding. I continue to describe Jennifer's dress. Jennifer makes one of the most beautiful brides I have ever seen in her white Vera Wang wedding dress with lavender accents, custom fit to her by the world-renowned Enrique. I continue, this is the most non-traditional wedding I have ever witnessed, and your eyes are not deceiving you. Glenn looks dashing in his traditional Scottish Highland dress. He certainly has the legs to wear a kilt. Benny Blaine, who is wearing his marine dress blue uniform, is playing the wedding march on the guitar. His best man is Jack Reynolds, also in his marine dress blue uniform. However, the groomsmen are the most eclectic I have ever witnessed, and there is a story behind each one. Unfortunately, in order to do justice to the stories, we will have to wait until later to cover them. The first is a wild wolf, then an American quarter horse named Bo, a bear named Wojciech, and a little dog named Motita. For animals, they are being remarkably well behaved. Jennifer's side is also peculiar. Her maid of honor is the Truth Network's own Elizabeth Morgan, who looks almost as beautiful as the bride in her lavender dress. And beside Liz the dog in waiting, with a large lavender bow, stands Sharik. I was told lavender was chosen because they matched Jennifer Donaldson's eyes and of course reflect the lavender highlights in Jennifer's wedding gown. Then I report on the guests. The bride, Jennifer Donaldson, has a huge contingency of guests consisting of the team which helped her find Ben, Jack Reynolds' wife and children, and many others too numerous to mention. However, Benny Blaine's side once again mirrors his groomsmen and are eclectic. There is Stacey Summers in her beautiful white dress and veil side saddle on her horse patches. Then we have Miranda, Irina, and Alexei Sedankina, along with Alexei's soon-to-be bride Safia. They are from Kazakhstan and must have misunderstood American wedding customs because they are all wearing what appears to be clothing more apropos of funeral. But the most shocking of all is a woman named Margarita. She is dressed like a prostitute and brought the little dog Motita. Yes, she is the one with shocking pink hair, a very tight, low-cut mini dress that actually lets you see the back of her yellow thong, wearing high heels that are entirely impractical for the campsite and seems to have already imbibed a mammoth amount of alcohol. Then something interrupts the wedding. Present, Jen, the wedding. Liz had to pinch me a couple more times because I just couldn't believe that I was really, finally getting married to my Ben. Daddy looked so wonderful in his traditional Scottish Highland dress. Ben surprised me when Jack handed him a guitar and he started to play the wedding march. Daddy took my arm, smiles at me, and also surprises me when he says without his Scottish accent, Jennifer, I am so proud of you today. It had to be hard to wait this long. Has it been worth it? I smile at Daddy and answer, Daddy, it hasn't been as hard waiting for Ben as you think because I always knew we're supposed to be together. We arrive at the makeshift altar where the Orthodox priest is waiting, and then rats. Double rats and triple rats. Something disrupts our wedding. Present, Ben, the wedding. It might have been hell getting ready for the wedding because I sure as hell didn't care for the gay-dressed dude and what he did to my hair. The manicure and pedicure were even worse, but I do have to say, he did work wonders on my dress blues. They have never fit me better. Jens, my soon-to-be wife, looks stunning. When I see her standing at the back of our campsite aisle, I almost lose it. Why the hell did I fight her so long about getting married? I can tell she's surprised when Jack hands me a Jose Ramirez classical guitar, and I begin to play the traditional wedding march by Felix Mendelssohn with a few improvisations of my own. I notice Stacy and Miranda's outfits and find both of them highly distasteful for my wedding. Stacy looks like she is ready to take Jens' place in a moment. She's a good girl, but no one could ever replace Jens. And Miranda, along with her family, look as if they are going to a funeral. Margarita is even worse. She reminds me of a cheap 304. If I wasn't so damn busy today, I would kick all their butts and tell them to get the hell out of here. I finish the wedding march as Glenn and Jens arrive at the altar, hand Jack my guitar, and then all hell breaks loose. The wolf, which has been very content being one of my groomsmen, stands up, looks behind the altar, the hair raises on his back, and he begins to howl. Then there's a hell of a lot of yelling and screaming. It sounds like, present, Samantha, videoing the wedding. Right as Ben finishes playing the wedding march, he hands the guitar to Jack, and then the wolf stands up, the hair rises on his back, and he begins to howl. I continue to report, ladies and gentlemen, I am not sure exactly what is going on. As you can see, Ben's wolf stood up and howled. Now we are hearing many howls and some scary hair-raising growls mixed with screams emanating from behind the altar. Wait, I think I see some. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Present, Jen, the wedding. I just make it to the altar. Daddy is ready to hand me off to Ben, and then Ben's wolf, which seems to have a second sense about everything, stands up, the hair raises on his back, and he howls. Soon after we hear more howls and growls mixed with humans screaming from behind the altar. Ben amazes me when he dashes in front of me and yells to Jack, rifle. Jack throws a rifle toward Ben. Where the heck it came from I sure don't know. He catches it while bravely standing in front of me. Then Jack grabs a rifle of his own and points it in the direction of the noise. Not to be outdone by my soon-to-be husband, I carefully reach under my beautiful wedding dress and pull out the pistol I have concealed in a thigh holster under my dress. Yes, I had a huge fight with Enrique about wearing the pistol, but I sure as heck wasn't walking down the aisle naked, unarmed. I notice that suddenly Daddy has a rifle and his claymore while Hammer is standing beside him with a rifle and his claymore. I do a quick tactical assessment and notice that practically everyone is holding a weapon. Stacy is on her horse with a golden Winchester repeating rifle. The Sedankanas all have weapons. Ben nods to his wolf. The wolf takes off behind the altar, and I am shocked with what happens next. Present, Samantha, videoing the wedding. I am speechless, which for a reporter is very unusual. As Ben's wolf takes off and runs behind the altar, and the next thing I see are the Mossad team and my lying scumsucker bigamist ex-husband Frank being escorted out of the woods by a bunch of wolves and even a few grizzly bears. It seems like everyone has a gun, even Jennifer, and they are all pointed at the Mossad team, which, as they get closer, appears to be a very messed up team. They all appear to be bleeding and limping, and my scumsucker lying ex-husband Frank is being dragged by a bear. Ben yells, everyone hold your fire. Intruders, stop and identify yourselves, or die. They stop, and then I yell, Ben, this is the Mossad team I traveled with and my lying scumsucker bigamist ex-husband Frank. Ben laughs and says, I remember you guys. I thought the Mossad was supposed to be the cream of the crop, but you never could catch me earlier, and now it looks like my friends have handed you your butts. State your mission. No one says anything, so Ben nods his head, and one of the wolves bites the hell out of one of the men. He screams, and then says, please call off your trained animals. We heard Samantha was going to be here, and we came here to capture her. Ben continues the questioning. What was the purpose behind capturing Samantha? He pauses. The wolf noses him. He jumps about 10 feet and answers, because of the bitch Samantha and her many bad reports about us. Our lives have been hell. Jennifer loudly threatens, if you think your life was hell before, just wait to see what they are going to be like for interrupting my wedding. I should let these wolves and bears eat you for lunch, but I don't want them to get kosher frickin' indigestion. We all laugh some, and Jennifer requests, Ben, my love, can our friends move them to the back of the clearing so we can still get married? Ben smiles, looks at Jennifer and says, I didn't know you were carrying. Were you worried I was going to run? Jennifer laughs and says, Present, Ben, the wedding. I just asked Jens why she's carrying. even though it's only a pistol, and she replies, "No, I know you will never leave me. I was just concerned about other things." I follow her beautiful violet eyes as she motions with them towards Stacy and Mira. I smile at her and reply, "Yes, I totally understand. But as you can see, we have more than enough security to handle any problem." I nod my head to the wolf, signaling that he, the other wolves, and the bears move the Mossad team to the back of the campsite and stand guard over them. My wolf runs up the aisle and takes his place again as my groomsman. I look at the Orthodox priest along with Glenn and ask, "Can we continue this wedding, because I can't wait to find out where in the hell Jens hid that pistol." Everyone laughs and, present, Samantha, videoing the wedding. I quickly compose myself after the shock of seeing my scumsucker lying bigamist ex-husband Frank and continue my report. Yes, we are all sure that after these many years of waiting, Benny Blaine can't wait to see where his lovely bride concealed that pistol. Unfortunately, we will never know. Glenn is saying a few final words to Jennifer, as most fathers do to their daughters on their wedding day. Benny and Glenn shake hands while it appears like he gives Benny some very firm admonitions and places Jennifer's arm on Benny's. I cannot believe it again when Benny's wolf stands up, the hair rises on his back, and he again howls. From the edge of the clearing we hear some growls, some gunshots, and some obviously feminine screams. Present, Jens, the wedding. Who in the frickin' hell is interrupting my wedding this time? I will kill them. I look at Ben. He gets a very concerned look in his eyes and says, "Jens, even though we aren't married yet, you need to obey me on this and stay here." I want to tell him that I talked to the Orthodox priest and remove the unnecessary part about obeying from our wedding ceremony. But I can tell by Ben's eyes something very bad has happened. I smile at Ben and answer, "Just please, don't leave me at the altar." Ben gives me a kiss. Yes, I know it's a no-no to kiss the bride before the ceremony is over. And says, "Jens, we will be back as soon as possible. Jack, Glenn, and Hammer, I need you." While Ben takes off with the other three, I turn to the crowd and say, "Don't go away, everyone. I am sure eventually we will get married." I am shocked when the Orthodox priest asks, "May I borrow Ben's guitar?" I find Ben's guitar, hand it to him, and carefully caution, Ben is really attached to his guitars. The priest answers, "I understand, and this guitar is an original Jose Ramirez, just like the one Andres Segovia Torres played, so I will be extra careful." I apologize. "I am sorry, but I never asked your name." He smiles at me and answers, "I am Father Anthony Carbo, and have known Ben for many years. By the way, it's an honor to marry the two of you." I'm happy when he moves his big cross out of the way of Ben's guitar and then begins to play and sing some songs. Present, Ben, wedding interruption number 2. I can't believe that this happened at my wedding. If I had any idea we would have so many problems, I would have held it someplace like a church that didn't have wide open access. We get away from the altar and Jack asks, "Ben, I recognize that look. What the hell is going on?" I motion to Glenn. He comes up beside me and I inform him, "I hate to say this, but unless I'm wrong, Evelyn and Megan killed one of the wolves, and I further hate to say it, but the wolves retaliated by killing both of them." Glenn questions, "Ben, are you sure?" We arrive at the scene finding a dead wolf and 2 very mauled and dead women. I sink to my knees and reply, "Glenn, I'm sorry as hell about this." Glenn runs to what's left of Evelyn and curses, "God damn it, Wahenwa. This will ruin your daughter's wedding day." Jack clears his voice and says, "You know, this will only ruin the wedding day if you two let it." I look at Jack and demand, "Jack, what the hell do you mean? Evelyn is dead." Jack gives us a grim look and answers, "That's right, and I hate to say it, but they both came here with plans to ruin the wedding because those sure as hell aren't pop guns they are carrying. If the wolves hadn't stopped them, this could have been much worse. Gentlemen, we have a choice to make. We can go back to the wedding, tell everyone that the wolves killed Evelyn and Megan in self-defense, or we can go back to the wedding and pretend that nothing has happened until it is over. Then I will get Tom, Inga, and the Sifs to take care of the bodies." Glenn concurs. Jack is REAT. "If we tell Jennifer th wedding will be ruined if it Ian continues. I think we gang why Jack's plan and later after your honeymoon we GIE together and tell Jennifer." I look at the 3 of them and answer, "I hate like hell lying to Jennifer on our wedding day." Jack interrupts me, "Ben, get your head out of your butt and for once listen to me." I shut up, think about this, and decide that Jack and Glenn are correct. Somehow I need to keep this from Jennifer. I stand up, wipe the forest debris off my dress blues, look at the 3 of them and say, "You 3 are right. I just don't know how I can hide this from her." Glenn smiles, reaches into the dress sporran. A traditional part of male Scottish Highland dress is a pouch that performs the same function as pockets on the pocketless kilt. Made of leather or fur, the ornamentation of the sporran is chosen to complement the formality of dress worn with it. The sporran is worn on a leather strap or chain, conventionally positioned in front of the groin of the wearer, On the front of his kilt, pulls out a flask and orders, "Tack a couple juity swigs I thes, and it will help." I unscrew the cap of the flask, tip it back, and begin to take a swig. Jack surprises the hell out of me when he pushes the bottom of the flask higher, so I get more of a snort than a swig. I swallow it. It burns all the way down, so I cough and demand, "What the hell was that? It sure wasn't bourbon." Glenn laughs as he says, "My son, is Glenfiddich single malt scotch. It's Loch Ambrosia Frey Heaven and is best scotch Bunsons can buy. Bebby Hardy ma suin, Taby's son-in-law." I take another snort, this time without Jack's help. It doesn't burn as much, and I'm feeling much better. I screw the cap back on the flask, hand it to Glenn, and complain, "Great, now my breath will smell like scotch." Glenn puts the flask back into his sporran, pulls out a container of Altoids mints, opens them, hands two to me, and laughs. "That's stotin' hin a bit of sporran. There's room for almost everything." I go over to the wolf that Megan or Evelyn killed, squat down beside her, sadly touch the now lifeless body, say some prayers to the Great Spirit asking him to help guide her to the other side, stand up and say, "I'd better not leave Jens at the altar much longer. She might try to come and find us." We head back to the wedding, and I ask Glenn a very serious question. "How can you be so calm about Evelyn dying?" Glenn looks at me and answers, "My son, Evelyn has been dead to me for many years. Dinny Jaime rang. I will grieve greatly for when time is AITA. However, no isn't at time. No is time for celebration." We arrive back at the campsite, and I smile, because Father Anthony is playing songs and entertaining our visitors. Present, Jens, the wedding. Ben, Daddy, Jack, and Hammer finally show up again. I was getting concerned and was about ready to come looking for them. I get all excited and inquire, "What was that interruption?" Daddy answers, "Dornt fash yours my lassie, it was Nathan." I look at Ben and question, "Honey, what's wrong?" He smiles at me, but it looks a little strained, and answers, "Glenn is right. Now let's get married, because I want to find out where you've hidden that pistol." Father Anthony stops playing the guitar and continues the service. Present, Samantha, videoing the wedding. From this wedding, I have learned so many things that I will make sure never to repeat if I ever get married again. The guys are back. However, they look more somber than before, and the Orthodox priest finally starts the ceremony. And what a ceremony it is. This is not a normal traditional wedding such as I have seen before. It's much more elaborate. I especially like the part where the priest puts crowns on the bride and groom's heads and switches them 3 times. It's finally over, and the priest announces, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Benny Blaine." There's a huge cheer from Jennifer's side of the aisle and utter silence from Ben's side. Most of us are thankful that it's finally over with no more interruptions. I comment, "Yes, this might be the wedding of the century, at least the wedding of the decade." Even with multiple interruptions, Benny and Jennifer are finally married. If they can weather the interruptions they endured during their wedding, they should be able to weather almost any problems that come their way. Here they come down the aisle and are headed toward their helicopter, which will whisk them away to the airport and to their long-deserved honeymoon. They stop at the helicopter. Jennifer turns around, throws her bouquet, and Liz catches it. Ben pulls up Jennifer's wedding dress, takes off her garter, turns his back toward the crowd, and launches it over his shoulders. Amazingly, Alexei catches it. I continue. We all send them our best wishes for many happy years of married life. Their helicopter starts up, everyone moves back, and it takes off while we are treated to a wonderfully catered meal thanks to Mabel. My cameramen quickly eat, and then are taking videos of the guests and asking them how they enjoyed the wedding. I am surprised when a government helicopter lands, so I wander over to see what's going on. A man steps out, flashes a badge, and declares, "I'm from the FBI." I wave to Jack, he comes over, and then things begin to get interesting. Present, Jens, on the helicopter. I complain to Ben, "Can you help me loosen this wedding dress, because I can hardly breathe?" Ben begins to open up his dress blues and answers, "Believe me, I understand what you mean." He then unhooks my dress in the back so I can breathe and say, "Thanks, my husband." He laughs and says, "Well, Jens, it finally happened. Can you believe it?" I laugh and answer, "Not hardly. It still all seems like a dream." "So where in the heck are we going on our honeymoon? Please tell me it's somewhere that's warm." Ben laughs. I love his laugh. And he answers, "I guess I scared you with the comment about cold weather gear, but don't worry, we're going back to one of our favorite places. I seem to recall you in a little black dress and me feeding." I excitedly interrupt, "Ben, don't tell me we're going back to Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. And I will have you know I still fit into and have that LBD." Ben hugs me. It feels so good, and answers, "I know. That's what Liz told me when she packed it. And that's right, 2 weeks of nothing but room service. Now where in the hell did you hide that pistol?" Ben begins to reach for my legs, and I complain, "No frickin' way. You need to wait for the hotel." However, Ben was persistent, and I relented slightly. However, everything else had to wait until tonight. Present, Jack, Tom, and Inga, after the wedding. A federal chopper lands. Samantha waves me over. A suit steps out and announces, "I'm with the FBI, and understand you have detained a group of Mossad agents?" Tom and Inga walk up, and Tom opens with an insult. "Damn suits think they own the world. Who are you here to hassle?" He glares at Tom and replies, "I know who you are, and if it wasn't for your credentials I would run you in. I'm here for some Mossad agents. Now this should be fun." With Ben gone, anyone who approaches remotely close to the Mossad agents being guarded by the wolves and bears gets chased away. I point to the mangy, chewed-up group of them and laugh. "There they are, yours for the taking." The FBI agent growls, "Thank you." He then heads toward the group, gets a bit too close, and one of the wolves chases him the hell away. I laugh my butt off watching him because the wolf gets in one good bite before he gets far enough away. He storms back over by me, sees I'm still laughing, and he yells, "What in the hell? Why didn't you tell me what would happen? How in the hell am I supposed to remove the prisoners?" I grin at him and answer, "I didn't mention it because you didn't ask, and without Ben here I have no idea how to get past the wolves, let alone the bears." Inga then ruins it all when she offers, "I have a way with animals. I might be able to help." Inga, the FBI agent, and Samantha leave. Jack leans over close to me and whispers, "Tom, we need some help from the Siths. The wolves killed Evelyn and Megan in self-defense as they attempted to attack the wedding." I softly swore, "Shit. You have to be kidding me." Jack continues, "I wish I was." That was what the second interruption was. "Hell, we haven't even told Jennifer yet, so we need to keep this quiet. Do you have some coffins on one of your planes and a place to store the bodies?" I shake my head. The joy of Jennifer's wedding is now gone, and I have more bodies to deal with. I am shocked that Inga walks right up to the Mossad prisoners while the wolves and bears don't bite her. Inga and the FBI agent head them toward the helicopter, and I decide that it's better if Inga doesn't know about Evelyn and Megan. I nod my head, and we leave together. Flashback, Ben and Jack, a new mission. We approached Baghdad without any further issues until the fasten seatbelt light started to go crazy. The co-pilot got on the intercom and announced, "There are some hostiles on the outskirts of Baghdad, so we will be performing a combat landing, spiral or corkscrew landing approach to avoid SAMs and manpads." I looked over at Jack, because he was still passed out from the bourbon and pills, to make sure his seatbelt was fastened in tight. It was fastened, but I wasn't sure it was tight, so I got up, pulled all the slack out of his seatbelt, quickly got back in my seat, and barely got my seatbelt fastened by the time the flaps went up, the wheels locked down, and we began the fast spiral toward the landing strip. Combat landings were hell. They were worse than any rides at Disneyland, which was confirmed by the retching of many Marines who puked out their guts. The smell on the bus got toxic from all the puke, and it was all I could do to avoid puking myself. Then it was over as fast as it started. As the wheels touched down, the co-pilot announced, "Welcome to Baghdad." Jack woke up and complained. I woke up, tried to stretch my back, and complained, "My back feels like more than 20 miles of bad road." Ben answered, "Don't worry, Jack, we're finally in Baghdad, and we will get you an MRI to see what the hell is going on with your back." I realized my seatbelt was about twice as tight as it was when I sat down, so I asked, "What the hell happened?" Ben laughed. "Hell, Jack, you were lucky because you slept right through the combat landing." I blinked a couple of times, but still couldn't believe it, so I commented, "Are you sure about this?" Ben laughed. "Hell yes, I'm sure about this. Just use the nose that God gave you." I took a deep breath, retched, and said, "Thanks a hell of a lot. The smell is so bad I damn near puked." Ben laughed and answered, "See, I told you so. I will go talk with Colonel Maggie and let her know you need an MRI here in Baghdad. Here's my flask. Go ahead and finish it off and sit tight until I get back." I sure as hell wasn't one to look a gift horse in the mouth, especially when Pappy Van Winkle Bourbon rode in on that horse. I worked my way up front, found Colonel Maggie, stood in front of her, saluted, and requested, "Sir, because of Captain M's foolishness in making us perform push-ups, my spotter Sergeant Jack Reynolds' back was injured. He needs an MRI here in Baghdad because I am not sure they will have the facilities in Ramadi." Colonel Maggie returned my salute and answered, "Sergeant Blaine, you are correct. The General has many plans for you and your spotter, so I am ordering Captain M to remain in Baghdad with you and oversee the MRI." Shit. And double shit. This was not what I wanted. However, I knew better than to counter one of Colonel Maggie's orders. I smiled at her and lied. "Thank you, Colonel." She continued, "Captain M, please accompany Sergeant Blaine and Sergeant Reynolds to the hospital while Sergeant Reynolds gets an MRI on his back. Keep me informed of the results from the MRI. You are both dismissed." Flashback, Captain M, Sergeant Reynolds' MRI. I couldn't believe it. Did the bony bitch really assign me to stay in Baghdad and oversee Sergeant Reynolds' MRI? What the hell was she thinking? I'm sure she's still upset because Dorothy dropped a house on her sister. Staying in Baghdad would put me into Ramadi much later than the rest of the troops and would impact to which combat team I was assigned. And with the bony bitch being here, I would probably end up being assigned to be an RESS, a pejorative name for a soldier who provides logistical support and has no real appreciation for what is really happening in the field. The last thing I wanted to do in this war was push papers or shuttle cargo because a soldier, without some goddamn war to fight, might as well be dead. I wanted to complain, but I knew better. I thought for a moment and decided I could probably really screw up things if I cloaked Sergeant Reynolds' results, told them nothing was wrong, and had him and Sergeant Blaine assigned immediately to the worst possible group in Ramadi. Yeah, that made much more sense than listening to the bony bitch. Flashback, Jack and Ben, a new mission. Ben made it back to our row but didn't look happy. However, I sure as hell was not feeling any pain thanks to the pills the corpsman gave me and a good dose of Pappy Van Winkle. I slurred my voice and asked, Ben, what the hell is wrong? Then I noticed Captain Scumsucker as he walked our way. Ben made a motion with his hand, so I realized I needed to keep quiet and hide the flask, which is exactly what I did. The stupid Captain M walked up and ordered, "Okay, you two. We need to get Sergeant Reynolds to the hospital ASAP." Ben threw him a half salute. I wasn't sure how the hell he got away with it. Then he grabbed his big rifle case, unfastened my seatbelt, and helped me to stand. I swayed and almost fell. The Captain M demanded, "What the hell is wrong with Sergeant Reynolds?" Ben created an excellent lie. "Sir, he's been out of it for the whole flight and even slept through the combat landing, so I think the corpsman might have over-medicated him. If you could help him on the other side, it might be a good idea." Captain M took my other arm, and we marched down the aisle. If someone was in our way, the captain yelled at them, and the obstacle was magically cleared. We reached the air stairs, and Captain M asked, "How the hell are we supposed to get him down these stairs?" Ben replied, "No problem, sir. If you would carry my rifle, I can solve this problem." Ben set down his rifle, and the captain grabbed it and immediately banged it into the air stairs. Ben complained, "Sir, please be careful with that." Captain M began to laugh. Then the colonel walked up and said, "Don't worry, Sergeant Blaine. The rifle must be too heavy for the captain, so I will carry it." She took the rifle case from the captain, and I swear she smacked him in the butt with it. Ben said, "Jack, let me give you a piggyback ride down the air stairs." I wrapped my arms around Ben's neck. He lifted me like I weighed nothing, and then walked down the air stairs with me on his back, right to a waiting ambulance. The orderlies and Ben helped me onto a gurney and put me into the ambulance, which was really a Humvee fitted with a box on the back. Colonel Maggie gently set Ben's rifle case into the back of the ambulance with us. Ben smiled at her and said, "Thank you, sir, for treating my rifle with such care." She returned Ben's smile and said, "Sergeant Blaine, I know about everything you have in the case. The general has plans for you too, and this rifle, and I'm sure the other items in the rifle case will help you relieve some stress after your assigned missions. Just make sure you save some for me if I happen to show up between your missions. Don't worry about the ammo for this beauty. I will take personal care of it and make sure it's waiting for you in Ramadi. Now if the captain gives you any problems at all, please contact me immediately." I began to laugh and whispered, "Ben, I guess you aren't as sneaky as you thought." Captain M opened his maw and questioned, "Sir, what are you talking about?" Colonel Maggie put him in his place when she answered, "Captain, that's on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. Now you make sure you take special and good care of these two, or your butt is mine." Ben climbed in the back of the ambulance with me. The captain climbed up front into the passenger's seat, and we headed to the hospital. Flashback, Captain M, Sergeant Reynolds MRI. The bony bitch had my curiosity going about what else was in Sergeant Blaine's rifle case, and of course how in the hell she found out what it was. Somewhere, someone had to inspect the inside of the case, but now there was a good-sized padlock on the case. I could probably pick the padlock, given some time, but Sergeant Blaine never let the case out of his sight. I knew for a fact that the case would have to be left somewhere far away from the MRI machine, since the superconducting magnets in those love to suck in anything made of steel. Perhaps I would get my chance then. I continued to ponder the issue on the ride to the hospital, which was interesting in its own way because we were in a convoy with a group of Humvees. I questioned the driver, "Is this normal for Baghdad, because I thought we had control of the city?" The driver informed, "Yes, sir, this is normal because no one really controls this city, at least not totally. You never go anywhere in this shithole without ground and air support. If you do, you're a sitting duck." I continued with the questions. "Well, if it's this bad here, how bad is it in Ramadi?" The driver laughed and answered, "Hell's bells. At least here we have a semblance of control, and convoys have a chance. In Ramadi, the camel jockeys control everything, and they have open hunting season on the convoys." I decided it was a good thing for now I wasn't in Ramadi and hoped that by the time we arrived the other Marines would have made things safer. Flashback. Masha at home. I could not get the thoughts of the young salesgirl with the small child out of my mind as I made dinner that night. To me, it seemed like a travesty that the American government did not provide better child support for her like the Russian government did for Russian mothers. I was quickly acquiring an education about America, and everything was not all roses as portrayed on American television. I laughed to myself and decided that American television was a very successful form of propaganda. In Russia, the salesgirl could have relied on her parents, and if they were unavailable, there were excellent childcare programs which were free. As I ate my dinner alone in our wonderful house, I made a decision to help the young salesgirl. Yes, I would offer to watch her child for free while she worked. I would make a trip back to the market tomorrow and make my offer to her. Flashback. Jennifer and Glenn, trying to solve a huge problem. I asked Daddy what we were going to do to solve the problem of Mother doctoring our foods. Daddy thought for a few minutes and gave me some ideas. Jennifer, I can only think of 2 ways to fix this problem. We continue not eating at home, or we hire a housekeeper who is also a cook. I answer, Daddy, I don't think we can stop eating at home because the food is not very healthy when we eat out. And are you sure if we hire a housekeeper who cooks that she will keep Mother from messing with our food? Daddy laughed and answered, Jennifer, it all depends on what sort of housekeeper who cooks we hire. If she is a real bitch, then Evelyn won't stand a chance. I wasn't sure this would work, but I replied, okay, Daddy, I will trust you on this. However, if I start getting sick again, I'm going to only eat packaged foods. Now can we go by the BX so I can buy some granola bars, rice cakes, peanut butter and bagels? Daddy laughed and answered, of course we can, and we will also pick up some food for dinner tonight. Flashback. Alexei, at the laboratory. I didn't count on the psychologist putting chow mein in my room with me, and I wasn't sure how she would react to me. At first she hid under my bed and only came out for food and her litter box. Yes, thank God, she started using her litter box again. I did not like the concept of cleaning up my room every time she needed to go to the bathroom. Even though we were in the same facility, I never did see Mother. The psychologist told me that she wasn't stable enough for visitors, and he didn't want me exposed to her. Father did come by daily to ask how I was doing, and even shared some evening meals with me. Yes, being back in the laboratory was good. Flashback. Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. The torture delivered by Kostya completed, and we both survived, but merely by the cutest of Apollo's dens. I hugged my sister Ira as water emanated silently from her ocular units, realizing she had once again taken the brunt of the behavior by the bullies who brutalized our bruised and broken bodies. Ira stated with soft vocal emanations, one day, Mira, we will be free of the beast. I replied with equally soft vocal emanations, yes, Master Quan has given us hope. However, I have concerns that we might not survive until that day. Ira groaned in pain and continued, it was very wise of us to leave Safia with Master Quan. I am not sure she could have endured the punishment. I concurred, and if she did physically endure the punishment, she would have been more mentally damaged than exhibited by her current state. Even in our damaged condition, my sister Ira gave soft vocal mirth. Did you find it mirthful when she determined to terminate Kostya? I mimicked my sister's vocal mirth emanation and added, her outburst was evidence of her lack of training. Kostya would devour her. Ira shuddered and answered, I hope the day of Kostya's demise comes soon. Then she slipped into slumber. Flashback. Todd, the next morning. Yes, while my interpreter might have enjoyed the sex last night, for me it was boring, and I would have enjoyed it more if I had used my right hand. I went into the bathroom to shower, made sure to lock the door hoping she would take the hint and leave. However, when I came out of the bathroom, she was still there and shocked me when she said, hey big boy, why don't you come back to bed? I signed a complaint, but I just showered and I'm clean. She laughed and said, but I know a great way to get you dirty. I knew there was no getting her out of my house, so I climbed back into bed and once again had lackluster sex. When we finished this time, she complained, hey, that wasn't as good as last night. I thought, possibly not for you, but it was for me. Then I signed a lie, sorry, I guess I am still tired from last night. She smiled and said, you poor boy, you haven't had breakfast yet, so of course you're tired. You stay right here, and I will make breakfast for you. I heard an inordinate amount of noise in my kitchen, then she came into the bedroom proudly holding a tray full of juice, hard-boiled eggs, and pancakes. I tried them and signed a lie which I was sure I would get sent to hell for. This is great, thank you. She snuggled up to me in bed. We ate breakfast together, and I came up with an idea, so I signed, shouldn't you change your clothes for today's meeting? She swore and jumped out of bed. Son of a bitch, you're right. I can't wear the same clothes 2 days in a row or they will suspect what we did last night. I watched her get quickly dressed. She came over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, I will be back in a couple hours to pick you up for the meeting. I hope that later we can have some more fun. I wish I had thought about the clothes earlier to get her the hell out of here. I got up from the bed, threw away the shitty breakfast she made, and silently swore when I saw the kitchen. It looked like the tornado that moved Dorothy's house had rampaged my kitchen. There was no way in hell she was ever getting back into my house. Present, Zarika and Yasmin, at the cabin. I wake up at my normal time in the morning expecting to do PT. However, everything is changed because everyone is gone. I wonder what is going on as I wander through the empty cabin. I arrive in the main room. The television is on, and I cannot believe it. My Ben, is marrying. No, it cannot be. He's marrying Jennifer, and no one invited me to the wedding or even bothered to tell me about it. This makes me concerned for Yasmin, so I run to her room, frantically beat on the door, and yell, "Yasmin, wake up, it is a disaster." Yasmin yells back, "Zarika, leave me alone. It is too early, and I want to sleep more." I am thankful that Yasmin is here because that means they didn't invite either of us. I beat even harder on the door and announce, "Yasmin, you need to come and see the television. Our Ben is marrying Jennifer." I hear Yasmin's feet as she runs to the door, throws it open, and threatens, "Zarika, this had better not be one of your bad jokes." I grab her hand, pull her toward the main room, and answer, "Yasmin, I only wish it was a bad joke. They are getting married right on the television, and we were not invited." We arrive in the main room. Both sink to the floor and begin to cry as the priest says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Benny Blank." I hold Yasmin. She holds me, and we have the worst day of our lives. Then Yasmin pulls away from me and comes up with a very devious and evil plan. Present, Mira, Ira, Alexei, and Safia, going back home. The nuptial ceremony terminates. I pandiculate and inform the others. This nuptial ceremony is a farce, and I will not recognize it. Ira responds, "But my sister Mira, it is an Orthodox priest who performed the nuptial ceremony, therefore it is valid." I pandiculate again and answer, "That factoid does not trouble me. He was not a Russian Orthodox priest, so therefore this nuptial ceremony is invalidated. This is tiresome, and I do not wish to abide here longer. Let us return to the cabin." We traverse to an awaiting helicopter and leave this farcical charade. Present, Tom and Jack, taking care of business. While Inga is off playing Loana, think of Raquel Welch in 1,000,000 years BC, and helping to get the most sad group onto the waiting Phoebes, derogatory term for FBI. Chopper, I notice Samantha is also busy taking video of the capture and harassing her ex-husband. Now seems like the best possible time to take care of Megan and Evelyn's bodies. My next job is to find Glenn and Hammer. As I walk away following Jack, I ask, "Jack, where in the hell are Glenn and Hammer?" Jack replies, "Tom, they are with the bodies." I respond, "That's great, since the news crew is busy with the Mossad agents. Now is the perfect time to grab a couple caskets, load the bodies into them, and get them the hell out of here before anyone else finds out about them." Jack asks, "How do you plan on reporting their deaths?" I smile at Jack and answer, "We have a friend who's a medical examiner, so I will have him look at the bodies and create the death certificates. We have used him before, and once he sees the bodies, he will determine the most plausible way they died." Jack starts to chuckle, then gets serious and says, "Shit, this can't be happening." I follow his eyes, and I can't believe who's coming our way. Present, Masha, at the campsite. My husband is leaving the wedding area with Tom, and because I do not really trust Tom, he is well known to the company, I need to intercept them to avoid possible complications for my husband. Besides, Ivan has been asking to see his papa in Russian, and now is a great time for that to occur. I begin walking toward the two of them, but I can tell from the expression on my Jack's face that I am the last person he wishes to see, which is all the more reason I need to see him now. I approach within vocal range and simply ask, "Where are you two going? This area is so incredibly lovely, may we three join you?" Tom glares at me, then Jack surprises me when he firmly answers, "Masha, not now." I am bewildered because Masha, not now, is one of our code phrases. It informs me that my Jack has something to do which I or our children should not see. I stop, smile at Jack and answer, "I understand. However, your son Ivan wants to go and play in the woods." Jack shakes his head and answers, "Masha, that wouldn't be wise. There are things in these woods that are not safe." I make certain I hide the shock on my face when my husband uses "that would not be wise," another of our code phrases. His words let me know I need to keep my children close to me for safety. I somewhat understand as I remember the wolves and the bears leading the Mossad team out of the woods. However, I still do not know what my husband Jack needs to do which we cannot see. Present, Jack, Tom, Glenn, and Hammer, taking care of business. We arrive at the scene of the carnage, and Glenn and Hammer are busy digging two small holes. The bodies are so mangled it is hard to distinguish which one is Evelyn except for the difference in size. Evelyn was a larger and taller woman. I approach Glenn and ask, "Do you need any help with what you're doing?" Glenn replies, "Nay, thank ye. We shoulds be Dane burying Evelyn's bits in puckle moments. I pause for a moment, realizing that bits likely means boots, then ask, why are you burying her boots? Hammer responds, we bury bits ghost Kenny Donner around. Tom asks, are you going to bury Megan's boots? Glenn growls, nay feckin' way. Ghost can spend eternity walking ruined teach earth. 'Tis fatine te pay for wit, she did te ma Evelyn. Hammer nods in agreement, motioning over his shoulder toward Megan. If it wasnn't fur at one, Evelyn would still be alive. Then, to my shock, he walks over to Megan's corpse and begins urinating on it. Tom warns, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I quickly intervene. Hammer, these bodies are going to the medical examiner. I don't think you want your DNA on them. Hammer laughs and retorts, you re feckin' lucky I didn't cut te feckin' heed affen jobby dooner neck. I dorn't core a bit only feckin' DNA cause they dorn't hay my DNA. I push further. Hammer, you were in the military. Are you sure they didn't take your DNA? Finishing what he's doing, Hammer kicks Megan's body a few times and laughs. Och, they took my DNA, but I had a GUID mucker delete it when he wiped my service record. I hate to break the bad news, but I have to. Hammer, your friend didn't do as good a job as you think. When you joined SIFTs, we checked your DNA against what was on file. Hammer blinks a few times, deep in thought, then mutters, well jobby, and I guess I need to fix this. To my horror, he starts pouring most of a bottle of scotch over Megan's body. He stops, takes several deep breaths, then strikes a match and drops it. Flames engulf the corpse instantly. Turning back to us with a satisfied grin, he declares, no, it here can burn horn in heel. I run over to the burning body of Megan. Try to put the fire out, but it's no damn good because Hammer poured too much scotch on her. Son of a bitch. How in the hell am I going to explain Hammer setting Megan's corpse on fire to the medical examiner? But it's even worse since the fire grows and begins to smoke with the nasty smell of burnt flesh while I begin to wonder when it will start to attract attention. Present, Samantha, videoing the FBI removing the Mossad group. Even though I am a reporter, I am a woman and I can't resist shouting insults at the Mossad group as they are herded into the helicopter. My bigamist, ex-husband, Frank not only insulted me, he took my virginity, and I was angry. I knew I would have to edit out my words before the station could broadcast the report, but this was my time, and I was going to make them pay. John, one of the cameramen asks, what the hell is that terrible smell? I've been distracted and quickly scold myself for not noticing it. I take a deep breath, cough, and answer. I recognize that smell from Germany. That's the smell of burnt human. Smelling, pun intended. A more important story, we begin to scan the skies and John says, that looks like smoke above the trees. I concur, I think you're right. This story is done, so let's see what that is all about. I begin to run toward the smoke with the cameraman, when Inga, who was the one that helped with the wolves and bears, runs up beside me and says, Samantha, you are correct. That is the smell of a burning body. However, I do not think this is a story which you should cover while reporting on Benny and Jennifer's wedding. I complain, why not? News is news. Inga grabs my arm. We stop and she asks, yes, news is news and you have just given America a wonderful report on the wedding. Do you wish to tarnish that report by trying to uncover why there is a body burning? Think logically. It cannot be good news that a body is burning and it will ruin the work you have already done. I ponder what Inga has said and decide she might be right, but I need to know, so I reply, Inga, you might be right. It might be bad news and it might ruin the wedding. Will you please see what is going on and then let us know? Inga answers, thank you Samantha for being so logical. I will do this immediately. Present, Stacy, after the wedding. Wojciech wanders over after Ben leaves, and we are well on our way to getting drunk. I knew Wojciech had an affinity for beer, but never knew he liked champagne even more. We steal 4 bottles from the open bar and begin to drink. I'm amazed at the food and drink here at a campsite wedding. It's some of the best I have ever had. I admit, I wore the dress in hopes that Ben would come to his senses before he married that bitch Jennifer and that I could take her place. Well, that didn't happen, so now I needed to lick my wounds. Getting drunk is a necessary part of it. And regroup for a new assault. Wojciech yowls and covers his nose in disgust. I take a big breath and realize what the stench is from. It's from burning bodies. I rise to my feet, wobble like hell because I'm wearing high heels, kick off my shoes and begin to walk towards some smoke I see rising above the trees. As I get closer, I swear to myself for wearing this damn white dress and wish I had my camo on again. In this dress, I stand out like the angel on top of a Christmas tree. I walk into a small clearing and can't believe what I see. There are 2 bodies on the ground. One is on fire, and that's creating the nasty odor. Tom and Jack are trying to put on the fire by throwing dirt on the body without much luck. Glenn and Hammer appear to be burying some boots. I stagger into the clearing and swear with a laugh. What sort of after-wedding party is this? Everyone turns toward me. Jack comes over and says, "You need to leave this area immediately." I'm a little drunk and a lot belligerent, so I smart off. Who are you to tell me where I can and cannot go? This is a national park. And while you're at it, tell me who are the two dead people. Glenn comes over and threatens, "Listen, whore, you bluttered hure. You need to laugh fair, I'll make you laugh." I guess Glenn doesn't know that grandmama and I spent some time in Scotland, and I can speak Scottish with the best of them. I hitch up my dress, get in his face and insult. "I don't hate to listen to oni, you fat scumsuckers. And you better nay touch me, you are, I will kick your butts." I receive a big surprise when a voice answers from behind me, and I get pushed down. Present, Inga, rejoining Tom. I arrive in the clearing and see there are two bodies with the smaller of the two burning. Tom is busy trying to put out the fire with dirt. An obviously drunk Stacy Summers is here. Jack and Glenn are trying to get her to leave, and she is resisting them. Tom catches my eye, sends me some hand signals commanding me what I need to do. This should be fun. I walk up behind Stacy and say, "They don't have to touch you because I will, you drunk bitch." Then I push her in the back. She goes flying, hits the ground and swears, "You just made a big mistake, Missy. Now I'm going to kick your butt." She rolls over, jumps up and runs toward me. I dance to the side. As she passes me, I kick her in the butt and deliver an insult. "It looks like I kicked your butt." She stops, spins around, and this time changes her tactics as she slowly approaches me in a martial arts stance. She insults me. "I recognize you. You're Tom's bitch. It's going to be so much fun to mess up that pretty face of yours." I let her move in closer. She tries a front leg kick which I deflect, and I counter by slapping the hell out of the side of her face and taunt, "I bet that's going to leave a nice bruise on your fat face." The last comment elevates her to totally psychotic, and she attacks me like crazy. But because she is so drunk, I easily block all her punches and kicks. She finally tires, falls to the ground, and begins to cry. I look at all the men, but they all look right back at me, and I know it's going to be my job to take care of Stacy Summers. I sit down beside her, put my arm around her, and try to console her. "Come on, let's get you out of here before you ruin your pretty dress even more." She looks at her dress, begins to cry harder, and sobs. This was supposed to be my wedding dress for Ben. I was supposed to marry him, not Jennifer. I have no idea what to say to Stacy, but I help her up, and we leave the clearing. Present, Tom, Jack, Glenn, and Hammer, taking care of business. For once I was happy as hell that Inga showed up when she did. A totally sloshed Stacy Summers stumbled into the clearing and was showing us exactly how much of a royal rich bitch she could be. She was threatening to kick all our butts. Even though I knew she couldn't kick all our butts, I sure didn't want to fight and hurt her. Then Inga arrived, and the problem was solved. The two women went at it like crazy. I was seriously impressed with Inga's skills as she handled everything Stacy threw at her and didn't inflict any serious physical damage. However, I'm not sure about the psychological damage. Finally, Stacy wore out, fell to the ground, and started to cry. Shit, I hate crying women. Once again, Inga managed to defuse the situation and got her out of the clearing. I finally came up with the great idea of flipping Megan over, which extinguished the fire. Glenn and Hammer were finished with the crazy Scottish tradition of burying Evelyn's boots, so I suggested, "Jack, you and I need to haul out of here in a chopper and get a couple coffins off one of the C-130s. Jack laughs and has a different suggestion. "Tom, I think the coffins would give away too much information. How about we use a few of the body bags that are already here?" I laugh and ask, "That is a better idea. Why the hell didn't you think of it sooner?" "But who the hell brings body bags to a wedding?" Jack answers, "I had a brain fart and forgot that we brought them not for the wedding, but for when Jennifer confronted Ben. We thought we might have to restrain him to haul his but out of here and knew it would be easier to handle him in a body bag. Keep an eye on things, and I will be right back." Jack leaves. I look at Glenn and Hammer and ask, "Why don't the two of you set up some sort of perimeter to keep others from seeing this?" Present, Samantha, waiting for Stacy. Tom's helper Inga comes out of the woods helping to hold up my very drunk BFF Stacy. I rush over and ask, "What happened?" Stacy gives me a silly smile and mutters a quote from a movie I recognize. "I see dead people." Inga hands Stacy to me and says, "Thank you, Samantha. I need to get back and help Tom." I demand, "What the hell is going on?" Stacy laughs and slurs, "I see dead people." I was asking Inga, but then Stacy gets sick, vomits all over her dress, and begins to cry. I've ruined my wedding dress meant for Ben. Stacy grabs my arm and pleads, "Samantha, please tell me it was a bad dream that my Ben married that bitch." By the time I look up, Inga is gone, and I'm left with a very sick and depressed BFF. I tell Stacy, "Let's get some coffee in you and get you cleaned up." I help Stacy as we walk toward the campsite. However, I wonder what went on in the woods. Present, Liz, after the wedding. Bernie comes over and congratulates me. Honey, you did a great job on the wedding. Your parts went perfectly. I know they didn't, but I enjoy the fact that he is supporting me, so I smile at him and answer, just so you know, we're not getting married in the woods. I still want our wedding to be in Ben and Yin's house. He smiles at me. I get a tingly feeling in my stomach, and he says, hell, I don't care where it is as long as Mabel caters it. I take another drink of champagne and answer, yeah, I noticed you had 3rd helpings today. Don't get so fat that you can't fit into your tux. Bernie gives me that sly grin of his and answers, I know how we can work off some of the food I ate. I grin at him and raise my arm dramatically to my forehead. Oh, the things I do for my man. We get up and head toward one of the tents, but my phone rings. I answer it and cannot believe what I'm told. Flashback, Captain M, Sergeant Reynolds MRI. Because Sergeant Reynolds was on a gurney, I didn't need to help the smelly old scumsucker into the ambulance, which was good because he smelled like a brewery. Then it hit me. Somehow the old scumsucker snuck whiskey onto the bus. This was a court-martial offense that the old man couldn't ignore. Things began to look up for me after all. Then all hell broke loose. Flashback, Ben and Jack, on the way to the hospital. Jack burped and then laughed. It smelled like a brewery in the back of the ambulance. The corpsman looked at me and said, Sergeant, if this man has been drinking, you might wish to dispose of the evidence. If it's found when we arrive at the hospital, it will be an automatic court-martial for both of you. I leaned over and whispered to Jack, give me the flask before we get into trouble. Jack laughed and said, why the hell should I? I'm quickly tired of waiting for a response, so I begin to check his pockets and finally find it in the lower left pocket. I took it out, handed it to the corpsman, and said, here's a little gift for you, for helping us. He turned it over in his hand and replied, damn, this is nice, thank you. I grinned and requested, is there anything you can do for Jack's breath? The corpsman pulled out a pack of gum, handed it to me, and said, have him chew a couple sticks, and you should be fine. I will also change the medications in his chart, so it looks like he's been over-medicated. Then he surprised me when he pulled out a bottle of alcohol and poured a shitload of it on Jack. Jack complained, hey, these were clean. What the hell did you do that for? I understood, so I explained, Jack, the corpsman is covering our butts by making your BDUs smell like alcohol. Here, chew a couple sticks of this gum, and whatever you do, don't burp again. Jack laughed, let out a huge burp, and asked, you mean like that? I complained, Jack, you do that around the captain or the doctors, they will know that you've been drinking. That would mean a court-martial for both of us. Jack nodded his head and started smacking the hell out of the gum, and then all hell broke loose. The ambulance started to careen around, which would have tossed us out of our seats if we weren't wearing seat belts. Shit, it was almost worse than the combat landing. Thank God Jack was strapped to the gurney and the gurney locked to the floor. If not, he would have bounced around worse than on the plane. Jack started whooping. Now this is what I call an ambulance ride. The driver banged on the sliding window between the cab and the box. The corpsman opened it, and the driver yelled, we're under attack. Captain, please man my deuce. The captain complained, what the hell? You want me to open the top and fire the machine gun? There's no way in hell I can fit through that window to get in the back. Jack yelled an insult. Typical officer, none of them can fight. Thank God this Humvee ambulance had some armor, because rounds started rattling off the ambulance and made it sound like we were in a huge hailstorm. The driver continued, if someone doesn't get on the gun, we might not make it. I volunteered, shit, if the captain is too much of a pussy to fight, I'll do it. I unfastened my seat belt, grabbed onto anything I could to keep from being tossed around, worked my way to the front of the ambulance, and popped the roof hatch. I climbed outside, made sure my deuce was loaded, racked the action, and began to give them hell. Jack started yelling. I dropped my head inside and asked, what the hell is wrong? The corpsman shouted back, you're doing a great job, keep firing. A piece of hot brass fell inside Jack's shirt. I kept my deuce firing, sweeping the rooftops and doorways until finally things calmed down. Flashback, Masha, the next day. I woke up early today because I had a new purpose. I jumped out of bed, did some calisthenics, then some yoga stretches, and finally made a light breakfast which I ate with my tea. I finished off my morning routine with a shower, then of course my makeup, my pantyhose, another nice blouse and skirt. Then it was off to the market to shop for today's meals and talk with the young salesgirl. I arrived at the market but was disappointed when the young salesgirl wasn't working. The manager, however, was working. When he saw me, he came over and questioned, back again so soon? I smiled at him and asked, where is the young girl from yesterday? He smiled at me and answered, today is her day off. She likes to work the weekends because she makes more money. I then answer his question, yes, I am back today because I need to buy my food for today. He gave me a strange look and then asked, Ms. I don't want to insult you, but can you tell me this? In the country you come from, do you need to shop for food each day? I had heard Americans were more forward than Russians, so he didn't offend me with his question. I replied, yes, I would normally shop at small markets on my way home from work for food required in preparation of the evening meal and breakfast. He smiled at me and provided valuable information. I thought so. Ms. In America, most people only shop once or twice a week for food. You will find if you buy food, it will be good up to a week past its expiration date, assuming you store it correctly. I was baffled by this expiration date, so I asked, I am sorry, I do not know what an expiration date is. He answered, follow me and I will show you. He took me through different parts of the store and took the time to show me the expiration dates on the food. Then he says, I bet you don't eat much frozen food in your country? I had seen some frozen food in Russia, however never tried it because it was expensive and from what I had been told, poor quality. He took me down these aisles of freezers which looked to contain wonderful food. He pulled out a package named lasagna and said, here, this is my gift to you. Take this home tonight. Follow the directions on how to cook it printed here on the back, and when you come back the next time tell me what you think. I replied, thank you very much for spending so much time with me. However, I do need to be getting back home. He walked me to the exit counters and instructed the cashier not to charge me for the lasagna. I paid for the rest of my food and walked proudly home with my prizes. Flashback, Jennifer and Glenn, trying to solve a huge problem. On the way back home in the car, Daddy said, Jennifer, I think we will have to wait until tonight to sneak all this food into your room. You know how your mother is about things like this. I answered, thanks, Daddy. I was wondering how I would get all this food into my room. Yeah, I think Daddy might have gone a little overboard at the BX. Not only did he get me bunches of granola bars, rice cakes, bagels, and a huge jar of peanut butter, he also bought me a big package of beef jerky, some sort of beef stick snacks, potato chips, peanuts, my favorite chocolate chip cookies, and even some Vienna wieners. That name always made me laugh. Who would name food that way? Anyway, we had 6 big bags of groceries which would take several trips to get to my room. Then I came up with an idea and suggested, Daddy, how about if I lower a rope out my window tonight, and you tie the grocery bags to it? Then we can bypass the stairs. Daddy came up with an even better idea. Jens, how about I take Evelyn out for a walk after dinner? Then you can sneak it all up to your room and hide it. Wait, do you have a place to hide this much food? I laughed. Don't worry, Daddy. I do have my secret hiding places, and I am not going to be showing you where they might be. Daddy asked, well, what if I want some of this food because, well, you know why? I giggled and replied, now I understand some of the purchases. They're for you and not for me. Because you're such a great father, I guess I can dole out essential food to you. Daddy glared some, so I thought he was angry when he laughed. I should have known better. Don't worry, I will keep my food in the garage. I complained, Daddy, you worked very hard to lose the extra weight. Please don't ruin it with this food. Promise me you will only eat it if it's an emergency. Daddy chuckled. I guess I can't fool you. Okay, I will leave most of it for emergencies. By the way, now is an emergency, so hand me one of those beef sticks. I countered, Daddy, what's the emergency? He laughed. All this talk about food and the smell of the takeout is making me hungry. I relented, found the beef sticks, took out 2 of them, gave one to Daddy while I ate the other, and remarked, hey, these are good. Flashback, Alexei, at the laboratory. This was annoying. Now Chow Mein had become more than annoying. She had become a major pest. I guess because she didn't get all the attention from Mother, she felt that I should take my mother's place as her attentive servant. She refused to sleep in her pet bed, but instead slept on my bed. Not content with the foot of the bed, she wanted to sleep right beside my head. Then in the middle of the night, she would invariably turn and face her foul anus toward my face. I can't think of many worse things than waking up in the morning and seeing a cat's anus when you first opened your eyes. Then it became even worse. I would be doing my school work or trying to work on the cryptex, and she would want, no demand attention. She would either yowl or crawl up into my lap, or sometimes even did both. I wanted to go back to torturing Chow Mein. However, I knew I was under constant surveillance, so I didn't dare do anything unkind toward her. Finally, I came up with a plan. I just wasn't sure how to implement it. Flashback, Mira and Ira, back in Kazakhstan. My sister Ira and I had slightly healed when Kostya walked into our prison cell. Yes, we were in prison. And announced, good news, my girls. I have a new mission for you that should be well suited to your skills. I oculated the evil look on his face and knew it would not even come close to being anything we would like. We patiently waited while he announced, we are going to use the 2 of you in our SERE, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training. The program is supposed to help in case you're captured, but many times the techniques amount to the same tortures you would face if you were captured. Fun things like Palestine hanging, waterboarding, ice water baths, extended sessions of standing in one place, or just plain beatings. You commonly hear the phrase, train like you fight, and fight like you train to justify the tortures. SCRE training is not pleasant, but it is critical to properly prepare our most endangered combat forces for the reality of enemy capture. Was I tortured by the U.S. military? No. Was I trained in an effort to protect my life and the lives of other American fighting men? Yes. Freedom is neither free, nor does it come without sacrifice. Training program. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training. The program is supposed to help in case you're captured, but many times the techniques amount to the same tortures you would face if you were captured. Fun things like Palestine hanging, waterboarding, ice water baths, extended sessions of standing in one place, or just plain beatings. You commonly hear the phrase, train like you fight, and fight like you train to justify the tortures. SCRE training is not pleasant, but it is critical to properly prepare our most endangered combat forces for the reality of enemy capture. Was I tortured by the U.S. military? No. Was I trained in an effort to protect my life and the lives of other American fighting men? Yes. Freedom is neither free, nor does it come without sacrifice. Ira boldly questioned, and if we escape, we will be free? Kostia laughed and responded, do not worry. You too will not escape because the men chasing you are motivated to capture you. You see, if they capture you, they get to have their way with you. And whatever they want, you too must provide. I oculated my sister and briefly noticed a look upon her face which revealed her acquisition of a strategy. Flashback, Todd, the next morning. My interpreter arrived to pick me up and rang the doorbell. As I opened the door, she barged in unexpectedly, invaded my personal space, and made an inappropriate comment before abruptly grabbing my hand and insisting we leave immediately, saying we were already running late. She didn't seem to understand how uncomfortable her behavior had made me. It didn't sit right with me. It wasn't playful or harmless. It left me unsettled, and I wanted to be anywhere but there. What she also didn't know was that I had already planned a way to remove myself from this situation. We arrived for the meeting, walked in, and I signed. Please tell me more about this mission? My handler replied, I will tell you everything I can, but there are details which cannot be revealed until you accept the mission. He went into his description while my translator attempted to distract me by moving her legs in a provocative manner. When he finished, he asked, okay, what do you think? We could really use you on this mission. I smiled at him and signed, I will take it, but only if I can leave tonight. I could see the shock in my interpreter's eyes as she signed my answer. Then she gave me a dirty look. My handler had one more question. Okay, since you can't speak, how would you expect to contact us? Do we need to send your interpreter with you? I could see hope in her eyes until I shot it down by tapping my answer on the desk. My handler asked, did you just tap out your answer in Morse code? I tapped yes. He smiled and answered, that's great, I didn't think of that. Okay, you can leave tonight, but need to stay here until then to prepare. My interpreter gave me the dirtiest look I had ever seen, and in retaliation I smiled at her. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.